Esma, you're welcome then to do the presentation and then we'll start taking questions. May I just ask, are you able to hear library service?
Danila, this is Cornell. I'll be just presenting, okay, just a few of the new services.
Yes, you're welcome, Cornell.
Okay, I'm just quickly going to see if I can share a slide with you. All right, I'm hoping that you can see the slide, but maybe not. All right, but just for time's sake. So you will definitely receive all of the presentations that we have and the information documents. But just so that you know, some of the new services that we provide include research data management. So we've provided some links in our guide so that you can go and have a look at that to see all the specific services and support. We also have a new Figshare data repository. This is the university's data repository. At the moment, there you'll find just a few pieces of data that are shared there because it's quite new. But you can go and have a look at it. And also in the Research Data Management Guide, you'll find some more information on using Figshare. So if you need a place to store your research data, have different versions of it, collaborate with other researchers on it, eventually publish it or link to it when you publish an article, it's a perfect place, very safe and secure to do that. Also a place to find data, but we've included some information on finding other existing research data that you might want to use in your research. That is provided by the HSRC. But with regards to research data management, finding existing research data, you can always go to your research librarians. Or another new service that we have is the Digital Scholarship Centre. This is on level 4 of the Sasol Library in the Bloemfontein campus. We've got some links there as well. You can follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the new services that we have, or go to the guide to see the different services. The physical space, the Digital Scholarship Centre at the Sasol Library, we have a data visualization wall. We have video conferencing facilities and some discussion areas. All of these areas have high quality TV screens that you can bring your own device and connect to. We've got facilities for digital media creation. We've got an Eversys scan station there as well. All that we ask, the space is ideal for social distancing, but we ask that you follow the link on the previous slide to the Digital Scholarship Centre and just register to use the centre so that we can book the time out that you want to use, just so that we adhere to all of the COVID protocols. And then just a reminder that the Postgraduate Research Unit is on level 6 in the Sasol Library in the Bloemfontein campus. You've got your 2 research librarians there, Hesma van Tonder and Carmen Nel. You've got your Africana research collection, workstations. You can bring your own devices. The university Wi-Fi is available there, and some boilers and a fridge and a microwave oven for your convenience. And just another reminder that now with lockdown, the library hours are 8 o'clock to 4:30 during the week. Wednesdays we only open at 9. Saturdays still 9 to 1 o'clock. So just maybe keep up to date. If you're unsure about the times, you can just contact us. to find out exactly when we're open. And as you can see, the rest of the presentation will be sent along to you with more of the specific information. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cornell, for the overview of the library service. I think we're 300 people now, and to organize our questions, please type in your questions in that chat box that below in order for us to send the questions and direct the questions to the correct person. I will read the question out loud and then we will direct it. I see all the hands going up, but please type it in that chat box and I'll wait for that. Then I'll read it and then we'll ask from the panel with us to answer. Okay, while we're waiting, let me just quickly see if anybody is okay. Let me take one voice question. I don't know if you're able to do so, Noma Sontu. Are you able to speak? I'm not sure about the voice controls. So I see your hand is raised. If you're able to speak, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, I'm waiting for your questions. Ria, can you just give me an indication if the students are able to voice? Because I can't hear anybody's voice.
Hi, hello.
Okay, you can talk.
Yeah, sorry, the chat box was off. Also, the mics were off.
Okay, so you may pose the first question. Just give your name and surname and then just give me your question, please. Okay, William, can you try and give me your name and I see your name, your question. Ria, will you just see if the chat box is on for typing and if there's an ability for students to also open their mics? If that's not possible, at least the chat box. William, are you able to speak? Ashley, I see your hand, Ashley. You also post. Okay, Richard, I see your mic is on.
Yes, good afternoon, Danila. Good afternoon, everyone. I have a question on deferment of studies. I did not manage to uh, register my title last year. I started last year for my PhD studies, so I did not manage to register my title. So I also did not manage to get funding for this year. So I've decided to defer my studies. My question is, when I resume my studies next year, will I be able to apply for funding or not? Thank you.
Okay, Prince, I think you must indicate that we have our certain rules in terms of funding. Ashley, please just mute your microphone And the rest, I will take your questions now. Prince, I just want to see, will you please answer this one?
Yes, Daniela. Am I audible?
Yes, Prince.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, it depends on whether we will have funds next year. But in the likelihood that we do have funds for funding for 2022, for returning students, applications are always in November. So, which means that in November, the student must just make sure that they apply for 2022 funding. Then we'll be able to accommodate them.
Thank you, Prince. Okay, now I see the chat box is working, so I'm going to read through the questions. Mongenzi asks, I want to know if a postgraduate student can register provisionally. If he can, then how much does he pay for provisional registration? Student Academic Services, is there anybody, Debbie, I don't know, or anybody?
Daniela, this would be a question that should be answered by student finance. Unfortunately, student academic services do not work with any finances, so we can't answer the question.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think in terms of the financial aspect of all the things, I just want to make sure, I don't think there's anybody of finance with us, but we promise that we will take all the financial questions and come back, but just please correct me. Okay, there's the email address that Ria just put on the chat box. For student finance, there's the email address to direct all the financial questions. If there's anybody else that want to indicate, you're welcome to indicate. But I don't think we have somebody of finance on the panel this afternoon. They are busy with other things, perhaps just to get you registered. Let me just take another question. I just want to get the following question. Is NSFAS going to fund PG DIP? Now, Prince, we're not really dealing with NSFAS, but is there anybody, Prince, do you know if we have an answer, or is that something that it must be asked to finance?
Yes, we don't deal with NSFAS, but on the NSFAS website, they do state that they do fund postgraduate diploma, but it's certain courses. So I think it's best, because even with the application process, it must be done on the NSFAS website. So I think the student must just go on the website, and there is a section where they can submit any questions that they might have. But as far as I know, applications are already closed for NSFAS, so probably for 2022.
Okay, the next question is, how do I proceed with registration? Because the problem is the program on my system is wrong. Sizwe, if you can just be a little bit more specific in terms of, is it on your computer that there's a problem, or can you just specify your problem a little bit more? I'm continuing. Then there's a request for the program of today. Yes, so Pamelo, you will send you the program of today. Is actually we're giving you a chance to send your questions like this, and we are going to try and answer as much as possible. So it's not a day of presentations. Then you see there's the remark of Cornell. If you want to have access to the library resources, you may email Esma or Carmen with those email addresses. Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any. Let's see here. Okay, Richard. I also sent an appeal for title registration last Friday. I have not received an outcome. If my appeal is accepted, that means I will have to continue with my studies for 2021. My question is, will I be required to pay for my tuition fee for 2021 or 2022 academic year, or use the tuition fees which I got last year? The principal answer, but I don't think we carry over tuition fees. It's a application that you do every year, and if you do anything, get any supervision or request for title registration, then you have to register, even when you have to be examined. Um, Prince, do you want to say something about Richard's question?
Thanks, Danila. Yeah, it's not quite clear, but I think our understand this is student is asking whether they can use the funds that they received for 2020 for 2021. Unfortunately not, because I take it the student did not register for 2020, but yet receive the tuition fee funding. So the tuition fee funding is only for that specific year. So if we give the funding for 2021, it's only for 2021. If you don't register, you forfeit it. If we fund you, it's only for this year. It doesn't mean that automatically you'll be funded next year. That's why we say you have to still apply in November.
The other thing is that if you receive funding, then I don't think it's not intermittent. It's for your first 2 years if you register, or well, you must register as a master student, but it's not like now in year 1 and then in year 3. Prince, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So if you don't use it, you unfortunately lose.
Yes, so if you don't use it for that year, you lose the funding for that year. But basically, funding for masters is for 2 years. So which means if this is your first year for masters, we fund you for your first year, then you must apply again for your second year funding. So if you're doing your funding, I mean your second year this year, and it's your first time to apply for the funding, and we fund you for this year, which means this will be your last year of funding.
Okay, Siswi, thank you for your specifics that you wrote. I'll also now ask Debbie, but according to me, if you registered for a certain degree and you want to make a change, but then you have to contact the faculty. But let me first hear before I now say something wrong. Debbie, do you want to add?
Yes, Danila, I will try to answer Cesar's question, but I also want to make a comment on Richard's question in terms of registration. I think especially for new postgraduate students that might not have registered with the University of the Free State in the past, it must be understood that in terms of the general rules of the university, a student is supposed to register for each academic year. So if you were registered for, say, your master's degree in 2020, you need to register again in 2021 to indicate your continuation of studies. And each year's tuition fees are calculated based on that academic year's registration. If you get funding, whether it's a bursary from postgrad school or external funding, obviously that funding might have specific rules relevant to the funding itself. But in terms of your registration, you must register each and every year, and you must register for your qualification and the modules that go with that qualification. That's why in the general rules it states very clearly that students returning, coming back to continue with their studies, must register before the end of March for the next academic year. Coming to Cesar's question, Cesar, if I assume you completed your Bachelor of Education honors degree, your studies somewhere, and you went on with your honors degree studies. But now I see you talking about a postgraduate diploma program. The best is to contact the Student Service Center for support. I will put in the comment field, I'll put their contact details so that they can just check for you for which qualifications you've applied and have been admitted. And if there's any problem in terms of the admission, they would probably refer you to your relevant faculty for further assistance. Because when it comes to postgraduate studies, the selections are made by the faculty and not by SAS. We just administer the administrative processes for the admission. So I hope that answers your question. Hopefully, based on your inquiry from there, they will be able to guide you where to go to next if they can't resolve the problem for you.
Okay, Pamelu has a question. I think maybe perhaps you can also just type an email address there. She says she need to register as soon as possible, but the lady they were told to email has not gave her feedback in the student academic. I think that means student academic department. So perhaps he's a contact person that you can send an email to, Debbie, or if you want to respond.
I will respond. The Student Service Center contact center is essentially like a call center. We've got one email, and I've got it in the chat box at studentadmin@ufs.ac.za. There are various service agents that attend to those email inquiries. So the next available service agent normally attend to inquiries. I have to warn the postgraduate students that currently our mailboxes are not only flooded with inquiries from our existing senior students, but we also are flooded with inquiries from our new first-year matriculant students. As you know, the matric results were released, and a lot of them have now inquiries about their application and admission status, and are flooding our call center essentially with inquiries on that. So the turnaround time, unfortunately, can be anything from 3 to 5 days before they can come back to an inquiry. Most of the time, they tend to come back in about 3 days, but there is some instances where the inquiries are just so many that we can't manage to do it within 3 days. So if you had an inquiry specifically to them, they will come back to you. It might just take a little bit longer. If you had an inquiry specifically to a particular faculty, you might want to have to follow up with your faculty-specific inquiry. Unfortunately, we don't attend to those inquiries, and your relevant faculty staff members would be able to assist with those.
Just two remarks from my side. We haven't forgotten about our social media questions. I have it with me. Those coming from Facebook, and so we'll deal with that too. I just want to follow up. I see Pamelu talk about the School of Accounting. Is there anybody of Economic and Management Sciences that want to add something to her or Nyabulu, you're welcome to answer. If I see your hand is raised, otherwise, you can.
Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you can hear me.
We do. You can continue.
Okay, my problem or my question is based on that last year, it was my final year in the Faculty of Education. I completed my bachelor's degree in 2020, and I applied for honors degree specialized in curriculum studies, and I was accepted. And I went further to apply for NRF funding. But the problem is that even today, I did not receive any response. And the problem is that I'm stressed simply because the registration due date is around the corner. And
Okay, I see. I don't know, the voice went away. Prince, I don't know if you want to add something perhaps here. I see he also typed in the chat box that his application was submitted to the institution. Is there anything we can add?
Thanks, Daniela. Yes, so students must remember that for most institutions, the academic year actually ends, or for some of them ends in March. So what the NRF decided was that because of that, it means that for most students, the undergraduate results won't be available until sometime in March. So the NRF extended the period in which universities can review applications until the end of March. Waiting for those results to come through. So unfortunately, the NRF has to wait for all universities to have their results so that the universities can review the applications and submit to the NRF for review. So this basically means that those who applied will only get feedback in April. So which means students who applied last year will only get their feedback in April. So I understand Jabulo's data still says submitted to institution, which means we are busy with the review. And as I mentioned, we have until the end of March to review your application, but you will only get feedback in April. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to first take one of our Facebook or Instagram, no, I think Facebook posts. It's Mr. or Mrs. K saying, I'm having a hold for academic advisement and I'm not getting help from the faculty. Just can you just indicate which faculty are you not getting help from? And if you have a hold for academic advisement, please just specify that we can perhaps ask the faculty to respond. Sizwe, last year I was part-time doing my first year for Bachelor of Education Honours with specialization in curriculum studies. And I see here, Debbie gives an email address for student academic services. Sizwe Karika Swart also gave her email address to just contact her. I'm going to the next question on our social media. It's Ellie. She says, I haven't received feedback on my honours application I applied last year, July. I have positive indicators on Oracle and a registration fee hold. Does that mean I can proceed to register? Debbie, can you answer that question?
Danina will try. Students can check when they log into PeopleSoft, and I will try and put the information into the chat box. There is a place where a student can check their application and admission status. Let me just quickly go there. I've got it, the information here. You can, when you, well, first of all, you can contact the student admin at ufs.ac email, but what might be a little bit faster is to see what your status of your application is and if you have actually made, whether the university have made you a firm offer. If you applied and your faculty have selected you for postgraduate studies, you would have received an email from the university indicating that there's an offer that you need to accept. You need to log into Oracle PeopleSoft and accept your offer. There is a guide on the university's website at the registration page, and I'll give a link to that as well, which shows you step by step how to accept an offer, and that you can then from there, check what offers were made and accept the offer. Please note that if you've not accepted the firm offer that the university makes to you for study, you will not be able to register. You need to go and accept that offer. It's very easy. I know for students, it's very easy to read the email and kind of say, oh, good, they've made me an offer, and think everything is fine with your admission. And then you just sit around waiting till the end of time, only to realize that, shoot, I should have actually accepted the offer before I could register. And because I didn't do that now, now I can't register and it's too late and I've reached the deadline. So please, 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 all new postgraduate students, if you've not accepted the offer yet online, you need to go do so. If you've not received an offer yet, it means we have not received confirmation from the faculty yet that they've admitted you into the program. You can inquire with the Student Service Centre. They will also provide information what we have available. Like I indicated, selection for postgraduate studies are done by faculties, and we are dependent on the approval from them before we can make you a firm offer for study. But I anyway will, in the chat box, put all the links so that students can just navigate to the university's webpage regarding registration, because there's some quick links there and also some videos and PDF guides that help you to navigate your way around the system.
The next question on Facebook is, will online registrations be extended for postgraduate students? I think it goes to Debbie.
At this point in time, I don't think it would be feasible. The last date for registration for masters and doctoral students is the 31st of March. I do know that there might be some discussion about potentially allowing the honours students also to register a little bit later than the February date that was given on the university website. However, any changes to the deadlines would have to go to the Executive Committee of the Senate to be approved there. We cannot make that decision in isolation. It is an institutional date, so the relevant governance body would have to approve any extensions on registration. But at this point in time, no, it does not appear that it would be feasible to extend any registration beyond the dates that were communicated on the website of the university.
Okay, we take the next question from Facebook. That question, I think, will go to Prince. I would like to know if I'm doing, that is Ms. Lamini. I would like to know if I'm doing my first year master's this year and did not apply for NRF. Can I apply to be funded for my second year of study? Prince?
Thank you, Daniela. Yes, definitely. The NRF funds students for 2 years, masters. So which means if you didn't apply in 2020 for 2021, you can apply for in 2021 for 2022, but that means that will only fund you for that 1 year, which will be your second year that you expected to complete. But if you don't complete within your second year, then you can apply for an extension. Applications for NRF usually open in April. So for students who are registered for first year masters, like the student in question, please look out for my email, which I will send to your UFS for Life email address. I'm going to have a session where I'll explain the application process. That will be around March. So applications run from April to July, but the exact date I will communicate also as soon as I have that session with all the students who are registered. Thank you.
The next Facebook question from Juliet. I've been accepted to do my master's in curriculum studies, but I want to register in education policy. That's now for education. Is there a possibility for me to change from curriculum studies to education policy? Is there anybody from education or registration that wants to? Anybody from education? I saw Krista earlier. I think perhaps she disconnected. Anybody else from education or Debbie, is this something you can answer?
Danina, no. Unfortunately, if, like I indicated, if any student wants to know what the admission status is, it's best to contact the Student Service Center for support. If we can't answer, we will refer the student to the relevant faculty or person at the faculty that could answer the question, or either get the information and come back to the student at a later point in time.
Okay, Ria, I can just ask you perhaps to just look on the email addresses for the email of Christa Dievenhage. She was present, but we can just post that email address in the box. I'm going to type her name. And then, Ria, if you can just quickly look at her email address and just type that, and then you may contact her at the Faculty of Education to hear if this change is possible. I'm just going to look for the next question. There it is, Karika. Oh, sorry, Karika, that you want to answer. So Krista needs to be contacted. So the next question is, when will the NRF respond this year for returning students? Our PRs were due on the 15th of February. Prince, do you have any?
Yes, thanks, Danila. So that's correct. Their progress reports were due on the 15th. So as DAs of the institution, we have until the 28th, which is Sunday, to review their progress report applications. So I think for the student on their side, what they can make sure that it's done, it's to follow up with their supervisors to check if they've responded. Because when we check the application and we find that the supervisor did not respond, there won't be any time for us to notify the student. So I think at the moment what they can do just to check with their supervisors. So as soon as we are done with the review before the 28th, the NRF will communicate the outcome with the student, I think within the next 2 weeks of March, the first 2 weeks of March, they should know their status for funding. Thank you.
Okay, Pamelo, I see your question. I see your question is quite specific in terms of your admission. So I think you must perhaps contact your faculty. I don't know if you struggle to get hold of your faculty, but let's just see if we can get anybody to put Ria or any one of you just to put the name of the person of economic and management sciences. If I'm remember correctly, I don't know if Liesel Pretorius is still there, or at accounting. I'm just typing that. Anybody of the staff of the postgraduate school, if you just want to look for a contact person at accounting, because I see this is very specific to accounting, or if anybody else would like to. Okay, while we're waiting for that email address, we have another question on Facebook. Any possibility of late applications for studying and funding? And what if you want to continue with a certain major, but you don't meet the minimum requirements? Is there a sort of an extended postgraduate course for that? Well, I don't think so, but again, now that extended postgraduate course, that I'm not sure. You just give us an indication in which faculty and specifically the department you are, but are there any possibilities for late applications for study and funding, Prince?
Yes, thanks, Daniela. So for honor student, the university has the UFS tuition fee funding that they could apply for, and they'll only pay for their tuition. So the application process ran in January. The deadline was the end of February or end of January, sorry. So currently we are reviewing the applications and we are pushing to give the students feedback this week or latest next week. So for honor students, we will give those who did not apply a second chance to do so. So that information will be communicated in the next week or two, but I stress also that communication will be done through students' UFS for life email addresses for those who are registered, or it will also be published on the postgraduate school's webpage under funding. Same thing for masters. For those who are returning master students, they had to apply in November last year, and the application now it's closed, but we will give them a chance to apply in the next week or so. But the application will only be for first year and second year master students, which means those who were doing their first year last year, 2020, and those who are doing their second year this year in 2021. For third year master students, you will only be eligible if you received funding from the tuition fee bursary last year. That's the only condition that we can assist you as a third year master student. So all that information will be communicated soon within the next 2 weeks. We will communicate that information through the emails and also on the postgraduate school's webpage on the funding website. Thank you.
Okay, let's take the next Facebook question. What will happen to us who got denied from PGCE? This student is measured in terms of psychology and isiZulu, so that I think that was the selection or made a non-acceptance. So what happens if you denied access to PGCE? Is there some process in place? Karika, is that again Krista's question?
The contact person for PGC is Mr. Teko Malefane.
Okay, Karika, just put in his email address if you don't mind on the chat box. Then you can just email him in terms of a possibility to still get access to PGCE. Okay, I think that's the Facebook questions I have at this stage. Let me see. Are late applications for PGCE still open? And if so, where can I access the application form? That will be the same email address that Karik will open because it has to do with the PGCE. And then there's a question to Prince. Let me just see. Wait before I go there because there's so many questions coming in now. Let me just go in the order. Prince, are we going to get the NRF outcome beginning or end of April? So you can just answer.
Okay, regarding the NRF outcome, we don't know. No one knows but the NRF. So what they said to us is that students will receive feedback in April. Whether it's the beginning of April, the end of April, we don't know at this stage. But what I can say also is that the NRF will publish the names of the students on their own website. So if you really want to know, you can check on a daily basis, on a weekly basis on the NRF website because the names will be published there also. Thank you.
Prince, I think you stand close by the next question. Why does NRF only fund certain fields? Is it not a government bursary?
Thanks, Daniela. I didn't hear the question, but I think you were asking why do they fund certain fields. I think it depends on the priorities of government. Similar to NSFAS, there are certain courses that they don't fund. There's those that they fund for postgraduate, and those that they don't fund for postgraduate. So I think the NRF clearly states what they fund and what they did not fund based on the priorities of the current government.
Next question, Prince, there's a few, so I'm just going to the next one. How long does it usually take the NRF to review and respond to honor students regarding
Daniela, please repeat that.
The question is, how long does it usually take the NRF to review and respond to honor students regarding our...
Okay. I think this year it's a bit different because of the extended academic year. Usually students will have received their feedback by now, but it's usually late December, early January. But because of the extended academic year, that's why the NRF said they'll only give feedback in April after they've received all results from all universities, which will be by end of March this year. Thank you.
Sorry, I was just disconnected for a moment. Katleus, I think, says, I'm very anxious about my NRF funding this year. Under what circumstances will I not be funded? Like what chance of not receiving funding? A final year PhD student, Prince?
Daniela, I didn't get your question.
Prince, did you answer? Sorry, I think the is very high on the internet. You answered the question to...
Can you please repeat the question?
Okay, that student that says, I'm very anxious about my NRF funding this year. Under what circumstances will I not be funded this year? Like, what are the chances of not receiving funding? I'm a final year PhD student.
Okay, if I understand correctly, the student is a final year PhD, and if they are asking about the NRF, because funding for PhDs and masters is already out. So if they can check the NRF website, the names of those who are funded are published there. So if your name is not on the list, then it means you will not receive funding from the NRF.
Okay, the next question to me, from Tumi, does this session include us who will be studying PGCE this year? So will NSFAS fund us because we still have numbers on our ads? Prince, what is your...
Yes, on PGCE, it's difficult to say because, like I've mentioned earlier, the students need to contact the NSFAS directly regarding funding for PGCE. The NSFAS handles the applications, the selections, and informs students. But as far as I understand, applications are closed at the moment for NSFAS applications. But if they have any inquiries about that, then they need to contact NSFAS directly.
Go to campus either, then during the examination period and its build environment BSc honors in quantity surveying, I think your department will discuss that directly with you, sending you a program. I don't know if there's anybody from natural sciences that wants to add, but this is a specific program and your department will convey. Let me just see if there's anybody from natural. Okay, I don't see a natural science on somebody from natural science, so I think if you can have a look under the academic part of the institution, where you get the different faculties, and then you just look for the contact person, or I think you must have perhaps a contact person already. Just ask them how often will you need to go to campus. Then Sina asks, how does provisional registration work? Debbie, can you answer that one?
No, Danila, unfortunately, I can't. Provisional registration is a financial process. So the students should contact the tuition fees or student finance department for information on that process, because there is usually a contract that the students have to sign. They should not have more than a certain amount of debt outstanding from the previous year of study, and there are certain fees that they have to pay for 2021. Reduced fees, but still fees that are payable. But I don't have the detail on that, so I can't give full answer on that.
Okay, so Ria, please just post the finance email again on the chat box for Sina that she or he can contact the financial division. Then we go to Mandisa. I've been trying to register and add modules for PGCE, but it shows me an error message on some modules. Karika, will you just retype that email address from which you previously said you will type for the, I think it's Mr. Teku Malifani, that will answer Mandisa's question. Bongi, is NRF going to refund students who register with their own funds?
Daniela, yes, definitely. If, for example, honor students register now with their own funds and they get approved in April, then they can apply to be refunded the registration amounts.
Okay, then is it possible to use our merit bursary to register? If yes, are we supposed? I just want to scroll down. Where is this now? Sorry, I'm just trying to get the message. If yes, whom are we supposed to contact to make it happen? Merit bursary sounds like finance. So if you can just contact that financial email again that we have posted or are posting. Then Timulin, let me just see, where's that message? Where do we apply for late registration? Debbie, is that your?
Danila, there's no late registration. The deadlines are the deadlines. Those are institutional deadlines. students have to register by these deadlines. If they cannot, then unfortunately there's not much that I can do or my department can do on that. People sometimes confuse late registration with provisional registration in terms of late payments. That is part of the provisional registration process. That I said, students have to inquire with student finance. Normally, if they can't pay the full amount, registration amount, then they make arrangements for provisional registration, and that still allows then the student to register within the deadlines for registration.
Thank you. I'm lagging 41 messages, so I'm behind. So some of the postgraduate school staff can just type or look on the website for the accounting department and just look for a contact person there and type that email address, because the next question is, I applied for BCom accounting honors and the application says status, it's still deferred decision, and the classes have started last week already and test week is coming up, so she wants to find out what to do. So please just have a look if there's any accounting email that you can perhaps just post, anybody of the postgraduate school. I will really appreciate it. Then we go, Mandisa, we'll hope that they'll answer you now. Then I just want to go to the next question, Johan. Let me just move on there. I just want to see where his name is. Let me just go back. Sorry for the answer, for the time. Okay, postgraduate registration dates. Let me just see what is Johan's question. Sure, sorry, the emails are so many. Can someone just confirm the postgraduate date? And does this differ for faculties? I received an email from the faculty to say that the deadline is 26 February. Debbie, you can just post the latest date on the email. Then I'm going to continue because we're having so many questions. I've completed my B admin degree end of 2020, but I didn't get a chance to apply for my honors due to some problems. I was facing, and I have a positive indicator on Oracle. Will there be late applications? As we already said, there's cut-off dates which will apply, except if the university let us know that they're going to extend it. Then Tate, Prince, in case the supervisor's progress report is still outstanding, will the students still be considered for postgraduate funding? Okay, Prince, this one you can answer.
Thanks, Daniela. Unfortunately, without the supervisor's recommendation, the application will not even be sent to NRF. So we need the supervisor to respond to the application. Otherwise, then it's incomplete and it won't be reviewed by the NRF.
Okay, let me just get the next question. Are late applications in labor law still available? Are late application in postgraduate diploma in labor law still available? If from law can just type the email address, or anybody from the postgraduate school that you can just inquire. Brendan, regarding, let's just see what Prince said about NRF. If honors applications will only get outcomes in April, how will we register then? Because registrations close Friday and classes start next week. Prince, is that a question that you are able to answer?
Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer. But what I can state as a fact is that currently, if you applied, you applied. You don't have funding at the moment. So if you have to pay the extension fees without any sponsorship, you need to pay from your own funds until such a time that you have confirmed funding.
Okay, the next question, Nomvula, how can we add modules that does not appear under program enrollment, but they appear on the faculty rule book? Debbie, is this something for you?
Daniela, I will try and answer that question. I also did a bit of a post in the chat box, but if any of the students find that when they do online registration, they can't see the modules that they're supposed to be registering for, they can contact the Student Service Center for assistance. However, most of these cases do end up with the relevant faculty for further assistance. It might be that the curriculum that was loaded on system was not loaded correctly, and the Student Academic Services cannot fix it. It also might be that there's a problem in the rulebook, or that the particular modules are considered extra modules and need faculty approval anyway before a student may register for it. So there's two options. Either the student can contact the Student Service Center and see if we can resolve the inquiry from that side. If not, alternatively contact your faculty directly. I do believe there is some contact details on the registration website with the various email addresses for the faculties, that you can contact them and ask for assistance to complete your registration.
Yeah, a very difficult question. I'm going to pose it to anybody. Guys, can anyone help me out funding?
Daniela, we kind of...
If anyone wants to make a remark on this, you're welcome. Prince will also always send out the funding. Continue. You're welcome. Is it Debbie that spoke? But anybody that spoke now?
Yes, sorry, Daniela, you fading in and out, so we can't quite hear what the question was that you posed. I just heard difficult question, and that's about it. So maybe can you just repeat that?
Okay, now it's fine. I'll repeat. It is a difficult question still. The question is, guys, can anyone help me? How can I find the internet just threw me off again? So it's the problem to find funding for registration. So if anyone of any faculty can assist to Becca, perhaps you can just put up your faculty in the box. Perhaps your faculty can approach you, your faculty and your email address, because there are faculties that may have some money for bursary money, but I think registration always comes from the pocket of the student first. But to Becca, just for an option, put this your email address there and your faculty. Then, are you going to reopen applications for postgraduate diploma? I don't know which faculty this person is from, but I think first we're going to deal with the applications we have. Then Lebohong, let me just see. How do I get a merit bursary appearing in my data summary to be credited to my account to use for my masters? Will you please contact that finance email, Lebohong? I think that's a financial question. Then the next question, is there a postgraduate bursary at UFS in case NSFAS decides not to fund students? Is there an alternative that the university can offer? Prince, do you have an answer?
Daniela, it's not clear for which level. Is it for honors, postgraduate diploma, PhD, or masters?
Okay, it's also not indicated Sumukeliswe. Please indicate what the level. I'm going to continue in Corsi. Is there any chance that late applications for admission will open? If the university says so, we will then still reopen. I think them that that's the same. So it's a registration fee. So I think Kwanele, if you can just perhaps ask that to that finance email. Krista, there's some questions coming to you in terms of the email. We gave your email address because we know that the internet traffic is high. Then Lizelle says the late applications are already closed. Then Timia says in regards to receiving feedback only in April for NRF funding, are we still able to register? It sounds similar to me, Prince, to one of the other questions, but perhaps you can answer that. So the question is, in regards to receiving feedback only in April for NRF funding, are we still able to register?
Yeah, I think it's similar to the question that we had before, and the answer is still the same. While you're waiting for your outcome from the NRF, you need to register with your own funds.
Okay, then let me go to next question. There's a lot of questions coming in from Facebook, so I'll handle them now. Lizelle, if you don't mind, if you can just mute your microphone, except if you, yeah. Then let me just see. Okay, to Metsui, the chat function does not allow us to send messages. So I'd like to ask, is there an appeals process for the NR because my application was denied before the university gave me feedback about my application for honors? Is there an appeal function, Prince?
Thanks, Daniela. I don't understand the question that we denied the application before university gave feedback. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense unless they maybe send me an email directly explaining in detail, because we would never deny a student unless we have the full results. For example, for honors, we need the undergraduate results. So if they're not
so
there,
please
we will
just
not
send Prince
decline.
an email if you're still unsure. Sorry for the audio disruption. If you register with the merit bursary before the NRF bursary approves you, will you be able to apply for a refund to claim the registered fee by the NRF? Prince, this is again for.
Thanks, Danila. For now, I understand the question. The student will register using the merit bursary. So if there's any refund that can be processed, there will need to be approval from the finance department that deals with the merit bursary. So they must give you permission to actually claim the credit balance as a result of the merit bursary. So if they give you that permission, then we can be able to assist you in that regard.
The next question, I'm going to take one question from here and then the Facebook questions. Because I was kicked off the internet, I lost some questions. So if I haven't dealt with your question, except the Facebook questions, just in. So the next question is there a postgraduate bursary for PGCE in case NSFAS decides not to fund the students? And is there an alternative, let me see, that the university can offer the students? If there is, can we have information about it? I'm sure we as the postgraduate school will send out any funding possibilities. But is there anybody else that want to add to this, except what I said? Okay, so take it from us that we will send you as much funding possibilities as possible. If we are aware of funding possibilities, we will do our best to relay the information to you. Christina, is there somebody from finance department? Okay, unfortunately there isn't somebody here on this stage today, so we will just retype their email address to you. Please, any one of the postgraduate school staff they just type their email address in that Christina may approach them. Then Lincoln, I'm studying on a study benefit and will only receive a letter of confirmation today, but the registration in 26 February. Is there a way to send the letter to a specific person? Okay, I hear about this. The turnaround, I think unfortunately, send it to the indicated email address. Our staff there is working as hard as possible, and unfortunately we can't really go to them at this stage. So please just try and send it to their email and they will attend to it, I'm sure, as soon as possible. Then there's a next question to Prince. Are the first year master students allowed to apply for the UFS tuition fees? I've applied for the NRF bursary after the institutional deadline had passed. But the NRF deadline had not passed. So it says submitted to institution. Okay, so Prince, first let's take the one question. Are first year master students allowed to apply for UFS tuition fee bursary?
Thanks, Danila. At the moment, the answer is no. But there is a possibility that we'll have funding for first year masters and second year masters in the coming weeks. So that information will be made available to students via their emails and also on the postgraduate school's website. On the issue of the NRF, remember we have university closing dates. So if you go to UFS, they have their own deadline. If you go to VET, they have their own deadline. The NRF has a deadline that universities must stick to submit the applications. So what you normally see when you go to the NRF's website is a deadline for universities. So you need to check with the UFS what is the deadline for the university. So this student, I think, applied after the UFS deadline. Unfortunately, the application will not be reviewed because it came after the university's deadline for applications. Thank you, Daniela.
The next one is again NRF. My question is also to Mr. Course. I heard you mention that the NRF will respond in April, but is it possible that I could get funded if I have not gotten correspondence from my institution, UFS, before April, since some people got provisionally accepted by UFS already?
Hi, Daniela. I didn't get the question clearly.
Okay, Prince, let me repeat it. I heard you mention that the NRF will respond in April, but is it possible that I could get funded if I have not gotten correspondence from the UFS before April, since some people got provisionally accepted by the UFS already?
Okay. So what I understand is that the student is asking if they will get funded in April, even though they have not received the admission from the university. Because when the student submits the application, they state what qualification they will want to undertake this year. So the student might be awarded based on what they applied, the information that they used to apply. But for the NRF to release the funding, they will need the proof of registration. So they might still be funded, but for them to accept the funding, they'll need to submit proof to say, I have registered for this course and here's my proof of registration.
Okay, my question from Albert hasn't been answered regarding NW Bursary Department of Education paying on the 26th of February. Albert, sorry, I've perhaps missed your question. If you could just paste it again. Then Mongesi, if you get the UFS tuition bursary and get approved by NRF in April, will you be allowed to change funding from using tuition fee to NRF? I think you answered it already in some other statements, but just...
Thanks, Anila. Our students can't hold both funding. So if you are funded by the university now and later on you get the NRF or the other way around, you'll have to choose one. You can't have both at the same time.
Okay, I see Albert is waiting for his answer. Albert, just repeat your question, but I see the next question is the deadline for the registration passes. Since we still wait for NSFAS to respond, will the registration be extended? I think you can just direct that to finance, please, then Lerato. I've noticed successful master applicants is available on the NRF website. I want to know if there's going to be a second list or not. I applied for the NRF last year and my status is still submitted to the institution. Prince, can you hear me on?
Yes, thanks, Daniela. So there won't be a second list, unfortunately. That's the only and final list. What might happen is that if those students who are on the list don't take up the funding, then the NRF might inform us later in the year to say there's this amount of money, so we'll go and choose those students that were not selected and inform them of their funding opportunity.
Okay, and then there's a question, how much is the registration fee for third year master's degree? Please post that question to the finance email. Then if honors registration closes now, what will happen to us whose study records are not yet closed? Will they extend registrations or we have to consider ourselves excluded? Tandiwe, Debbie, is this a question?
Tanina, I will try and answer. If a student, for whatever reason, financial reasons or whatever, cannot register by the deadline for registration for 2021, essentially you interrupt your studies in terms of the general rules of the university. then your academic record will reflect that you've not been registered for that qualification for 2021, and you would have to apply for admission or readmission for the year 2022. And please note that there's deadlines for applications for the year 2022. The deadline is normally by the end of September. So even if you studied previously with the university, you're going to have to apply again because you interrupted your study essentially then for the year. And you need to apply before the deadline. The faculty will then consider your application for readmission to the qualification, unless there was other academic progress issues related to your previous study. Normally, they would admit you back into your program. However, because you interrupted your study, if there's any changes in the curriculum or in the rules regarding the qualification, you will have to comply with the new rules.
Mr. or Ms. Swane is about employee dependence. I just want to quickly, from my knowledge, answer you usually. I just want to repeat the answer. I don't think there's anybody from HR here, but usually the registration fee is the responsibility of the staff member. Just the registration fee together with the letter. I hope that answered your question. In Pulling, not registered because of the holds, and I do not have financial blocks. I'm already funded by NSFAS, but the problem is that she has a module that she failed twice, and I appealed, but my appeal was declined, and I have to appeal, but there's no response. The appeal process is in the faculty. Just indicate your faculty that we then direct you to that faculty. Then Mariska, my sister, submitted her master's thesis 30 November. However, she found out a week and a half ago from supervisor that the results are delayed because one examiner didn't read her thesis yet. Now she has to register for this year according to the info from PeopleSoft. Will she have to pay the registration fee? I think usually, Mariska, if it's not the student's mistake, if you can say it like that, it will be you won't have to pay it, but please make sure from your faculty. I don't want to say that's going to happen and then you will still be responsible. But if you did your part, then I'm sure that might be the case that you don't have to pay your sister. But just please make sure from that. My question is NW paying on the 26th of February, of which is the closing date for registration for honours in curriculum studies. How can we be assisted to register since, well, the 26th last day? If you need to be assisted, you can make a special request to finance, Albert, and write a motivation and ask, but I'm not sure if this is going to bring in the results that you want. As Prince said, unfortunately, sometimes we have to breach this money until, and I know we don't always have the money, until we receive the money that we're supposed to get. But first, appeal to finance and ask finance if there's no way that you can please have an extension. And I'm sure the university is getting a lot of these requests, so maybe the university will also say something, but at this stage we don't have an answer from the university's top management on this. Then Mariska says humanities. Okay, I think I missed this one. Let me see. Okay. I think there was some communication here. Let us see. So I see, Albert, it's about the payment. Then Lungelu, I will ask why the institute didn't set out clear requirements for PGCE, because all the previous year you had to do 2 majors that you can teach. Yes, we get it now. Was apparently some combination they can't offer yet. Last year when we applied, yeah, there were communications. Okay. So I see you are struggling there. We apologize if you struggled with communications, Lungelu. Is there somebody then from Krista? Will you just take note, Lungelu? Just post your email address that Krista will ask somebody from Kwakwa campus to assist you. Okay, let's move on because I haven't dealt with Facebook for a long time now. Submitted to the Institute or dealt with by Prince. Then, if my master's NRF app status is still submitted to the institution, okay, I think Prince answered that. So now, I'm going to go to the Facebook questions. I have a student from Zimbabwe that says, I'm in a second year PhD student. I'm waiting for my study visa that I've applied in January to be renewed. What must I do if I miss the 31 March registration date because of a study visa delay? Is that something that you can answer?
Danila, I will try and answer. Unfortunately, the deadlines for registration are institutional dates. In the past, where some of our foreign students had some difficulties with study permits, the relevant faculty would assist them to get permission from the Executive Senate of Committee of Senate of the university to register students late. But those were exceptional circumstances. I would suggest, however, that the student contact the Foreign Affairs Office at the university for assistance, who will then also work closely with the relevant faculty to see if they can assist the student to get registered the moment that the study permit becomes available.
Okay. Then if you can perhaps just see, the next question is, will one be able to register if fees have been paid, however not reflecting on Friday? Portia, if you can perhaps just send that email to finance. Then, Pumelele, does anyone have any idea how long Ms. Nuyari takes to approve provisional registration applications? I'm not sure. I don't think we have an answer on that. Please just put your email address on this website that we will, on this chat box, that we will refer you then to somebody that might help you on the provisional registration. I just want to get the next question on Facebook. Could Sisu have experiencing difficulties in regards to registration? On my academic data summary, I do have holes, but on the task panel, I do not have current tasks for registration activity. May you please assist me on that? Debbie, is that something that you can answer perhaps?
The student can contact the Student Service Center at student.ufs.ac.za or call them at 419 for assistance. There are certain groups of students that have been identified by their faculties for not being able to do online registration. So some of the students who would have been flagged to say that the student must contact the faculty for registration assistance would not have a registration task to do online registration. But it would be best to contact the Student Service Center so that they can just verify the information and guide the student to the relevant place. If there is if the student's supposed to have a task, they will also escalate it to the relevant department within SAS to make sure that the task is assigned to the student.
Thank you. Then for humanities, I see Shanae is here. There's good. They are the MA Humanities Department applications still open, and do humanities allow late registration? This is Pabalu on Facebook. Sharnay, are you here that you can answer? Okay. So I don't see a response now from Sharnay. So let me just see. I don't see a response from Sharnay. Perhaps she will type. Um, yes, there she types. You can contact Eugenie Thompson. That is Pabalu. Then again, how much is provisional registration? If you can contact finance. I just want to see some of these questions are overlapping from those here. What do we submit in front and are any supporting documents we should attach? Prince, this one is perhaps for you, Ms. Lerato. Asked to whom do we submit the NRF condition of grant, and are there any supporting documents we should?
Yes, thanks, Danila. So those who were successfully funded by the NRF will receive the conditions of grant, which must be completed and initialed on each page by the student and the witnesses and sent to my office. So you can do so if you have a permit to come to campus, you can come to my office. Otherwise, you can email them to my email address. The supporting documents, it's your recently certified ID copy, your academic transcript, and your proof of registration. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've come to the end. There's two questions. There was a question about chemistry. If there's funding possibilities for chemistry, please contact Natural Sciences with regard to their funding possibilities. I know, or is it you, Prince? Because I know Natural Science have some additional funding possibilities. Prince, must they contact Natural Science?
Thanks, Daniela. From my office, we do have funding for master students only for the Natural and Agricultural Sciences faculty. So if that's what the question is about, then they can contact me then for that.
Okay, there's two questions remaining. Does UFS have off-site shops that sell second-hand books? Marius, I'm not aware of a UFS-driven process where we have off-site second-hand bookshops. So I think if you post that perhaps on the student groups, yes, students sell and resell books. But we as the institution do not have off-site second-hand bookshops. Then also, when is the virtual graduations for postgraduate diplomas? Marius, you can send your email here. We are aware that the virtual graduations are taking place from 22nd yesterday to tomorrow. I'm not sure are all included there, but we have graduations at this stage. But let's find out when postgraduate diplomas are for 2020. I'm not sure as we sit here, so you can just post your email and we'll respond to you. Yeah, Debbie knows. Debbie, you?
Sorry, I can just maybe answer that. The graduation ceremonies that are now being hosted this week are for students who completed their studies in the middle of 2020. So students who completed their postgraduate studies by the middle of 2020 would now feature in the February graduation session. Students who completed their studies at the end of 2020, the virtual graduations are planned for April, for the week of 19 to 22 April. Masters and doctorals would be on the 22nd of April, and any honors, postgraduate diplomas, postgraduate certificates would be on the 19th of April this year. So those are the planned graduation dates, and unfortunately April will also be virtual because our expectation is that the country would still be in a lockdown situation, and in terms of the government requirements of the National Disaster Act, unfortunately we cannot host large graduation ceremonies on campus. So it will be virtual as well.
The last question I see is from Lerato. I know we answered that a number of times, but Prince, perhaps because you posted it 3 times, if my master's NRF still status is still submitted to the institution, does it mean that it was never submitted to the NRF? If yes, I would like to know why, because I applied before the closing date last year. Prince, I know you answered a number of these questions, but perhaps you can just conclude, then all the students will.
Yes, thanks, Daniela. For NRF, for honors, if you applied on time, it means you applied before the 23rd of October. So if that's the case, like I've mentioned that universities were given until the end of March to review applications. That means that we're still going to review your application. So it will definitely change before the 15th of March, but you will only get feedback in April from the NRF.
Okay, it seems to me we did all the questions that I received via Maria from Facebook, and yeah, so the session is from 2 to 4, so we still have. Then if there are no other questions, then we end the session. Thank you very much for all those of the panel that participated and wrote their emails. Let me just write you the email address. Postgrad, I just want to duplicate it. You're always welcome to contact us at postgrad at UFS. Oh, sorry. UFS.ac.za. So you're welcome to contact us, and if any of your questions were not answered, we'll try and answer you as quickly as possible. And Lerato will put up the email, then you can talk directly. Prince, just put up your email address. I think your email inbox will be also full like for finance, but just put your email address there, Prince, and anybody that wants to contact humanities, there's Marizan Kluter's email address for any questions with regard to humanities. And then there's Mr. or Mrs. Tswani that says all his or her questions were not answered. Just post again, Mr. or Mrs. Tswani. Thank you, Health Sciences. So if all the faculties can just post their email addresses here. Maris, I see that you want exactly to know where to post a query regarding second-hand books. I don't have second-hand book dealers with me. It's an informal arrangement among students. So it's not that we have a second-hand, we're aware of which people are dealing with second-hand books. It's like there are often Facebook groups where you deal with your books. So we don't have a specific email address to give to you. Cora Marie gives you an email address for ICT related questions. Prince, will you just type in your email address? And then there's a block on CASA's record. If it's a financial block, CASA, if you can just perhaps then write to finance or phone them, because the financial blocks have to be lifted by them. Any other questions from your side? Otherwise, we say thank you very much. All of you attended. CASA, okay, you're an NSFAS student. So it's because of, there's the financial blocks, contact person, to indicate that you are waiting for money to be paid still. So please just contact fine to the tuition fees. As we heard earlier, their turnaround time, unfortunately, is about 5 days at this moment because they're working around the clock to try and solve all our financial problems. But you're always welcome to contact us too to see what we can do. Any other questions from your side? Debbie, thank you. There's a on our registration website, you can also look at what to do with regard to registration blocks. So thank you very much for all of you that you stayed online, that you attended, and that we kept the conversation going healthy. And we are very aware about how difficult the financial times are. So we are here to assist you as much as the university is able to do. So if you have a special request, come and talk to us and we can see what we can do. But thank you. We then close off the session and then we hope to have such a session again soon that you can, if or later when it is required. Marius, I just said that students collaborate amongst themselves to get and buy second-hand books. So it's not that it's a formally organized event. It's just informal. So just ask your classmates or the previous year classmates if they are not aware of somebody selling second-hand books. CASA still to apply. Thank you very much to all of you for attending, and we wish you a good day further. And we'll present some of these sessions again in the near future. Goodbye.